So, hi, Chris. Thank you for coming and joining me. I'm just sharing a little bit about our journey together. I know that you've been on an incredible journey that started long before I caught up with you. But I'd love you just very quickly for people who are joining us on YouTube or on Facebook or Instagram who haven't met you before. Who are you? What do you get up to? And how on earth did you and I meet?
We actually met through your husband because your husband does the coolest job in the world. And that's exactly what I used to do because I used to work in camping ministry. And we kind of connected when I came over to New Zealand for their national conference. So that's where we met. And so, yeah, so I'm Chris Mitchell. I live in Australia and I think I have like this core job that I do, which is like actually building people. I got a lot of mates that are tradies and they say, so what do you do? Like, we can't figure out what you do. And I said, you know how you build houses? And they're like, yeah. Or you know how you fix like electricity boxes? They're like, yeah. Well, I do that for people. And so that's what I do.
I love it. And I love it, the fact that you've got your lighthouse in the background, because that obviously is lighthouse leadership, is who you and Gretchen are, which is super cool. So you met Kev, and then how did we actually meet? How did, because you're in Australia, I'm here. How did that happen?
Well, I think you came over for a holiday, was it? And then I know that Kevin and myself and my wife have been friends for quite some time. And so we kind of got in contact and you guys came over for, was it lunch? Was it? We had lunch and lunch went till like 8 or 9 p.m. because we just kept talking and then we had so much in common and there was so much energy and it was just so awesome. And then you kind of mentioned what you did. And I was curious because I've got this core business of like growing people. And I think Gretchen and I say, well, I like to say, like, I like to grow light leaders and help teams shine. And so I have all of these like little hobbies that I do out of that. And one of them is coaching, and that's what you do. And so we really synced up on that. And I love to work with leaders. I love to work with middle managers. I love to work with the people who have sort of been at a coal-face job and they've taken a step up, but no one's actually invested any time to tell them how do you actually lead people, and their relationship skills, their leadership skills, their emotional skills, their self-awareness is low to medium, and they need a little bit of a pickup. And that's the space that I love to help people with, because when people start to really hum in their self-awareness area, well, all of their leadership gets better. And when you know, the guy I listen to, Craig Rochelle, he always says, when the leader gets better, everything gets better. And so that's exactly what I've been experiencing. So we help people grow in their self-awareness, grow in understanding who they are, grow in understanding who they're working with. And then out of those two positions, then they start to see what the problems are and they start to see, how am I contributing to the problem? And then they build some momentum, some internal motivation to change it. And that's sort of the flow on how everything goes, whether I'm coaching somebody one-on-one, whether I'm helping them with their wellness, whether I'm helping, whether I'm coaching a married couple, whether I'm coaching a mum or a dad in their parenting skills, whether I am running a workshop on relational leadership with deputy principals and HODs and business leaders. Doesn't matter. That it's always the same flow. Yeah. So did I answer that question? Because I kind of went a little bit to the side, Sal.
And you know what I love? This is, and I'm sitting here going, oh yeah, totally get it. No wonder we had such a cool time hanging out when we caught up initially. And then what I think is really funny is that when we caught up at that time, you know, your beautiful wife said, I've been looking for a coach. I've been praying for a coach. And you're it.
Yep.
We need to book an appointment before you leave. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, how did I end up hanging out with two of the coolest people in Australia? And then God says, seriously, you need to hang out with these a bit more. So actually the journey initially was Gretchen saying, actually, I think you might be somebody who I need some accountability. I need your fire actually right now, was the kind of the energy that she also has. But we all go through times in life where we just, you know, think life isn't a straight line. And she just went, you know what, that's it. So how on earth did we get from Gretchen, me coaching her, to then somehow I ended up coaching you as well? But you actually didn't need, it was because we're all different. what Gretchen needed and what you needed were two different things. So what was it? Why did you go, actually, Sal, this is what I'm looking for. This is the piece that I'm missing, because everyone's missing pieces different. So what was it for you? Why did you think actually hanging out with Sal might be quite good for me?
Yeah, I was curious. I've had a few coaches actually come and do my relational leadership training, but I've never come and done any of theirs. And so there's this amazing stuff that happens when you start networking with other people. So like as you started talking and sharing, I'm like, oh, I'm really curious about how you put all of these things together, because when you coach, you want to take people on a journey, and you want to like lead them through and help them piece bits together on what makes them tick, where their blockages are, um, so that they can do that. And I was really interested, as you were sharing, on finding out how you did that. And so I was particularly interested in that. And then the other piece that really caught me was the idea of doing Caroline Leaf's Pillars of the Brain questionnaire. That had really interested me for a long time, and I'd never had the time I never made the time to do it. And to do that with you was really helpful, and I was really excited about that. And then I think there was a piece where I was really excited about what God was sharing with you. And I remember a leadership model I got shared with once that I really like. It stuck with me. It said, if you want to be a leader, there's three things that you need to know. You need to know who you are, you need to know who you're leading, and you need to know what season it is. And if you can understand those three things, then you as a leader are going to be primed to position yourself really well for what's happening. And so really it was that part three, because I've had such a big interest in New Zealand for so long, and I'd had really God speak to me a lot about what he wants to do in New Zealand, and what he wants New Zealanders to do, and what he's doing with Pakeha, and what he's doing with Maori, and what is he doing prophetically in New Zealand. And all of a sudden you came along and you were like really tapping into that space. And I'm like, well, here's somebody else who's tapped into that space. Let's share what's happening there. So they were really the big three things for me, Sally. Seeing your program, hearing what was happening in New Zealand and sharing that prophetic space, and getting into some of Caroline Leaf's stuff.
I love it. And I love the fact that the course is quite diverse, but it does take you on the journey, and the synergy that you and I have in how we work in terms of value, identity, and purpose, because that whole stream is, and when I read your book and I looked at Kingdom Camping and what you've done, which I did after I'd coached you, I was like, oh, that's it. Oh yeah, that's it. Like the synergy in what we do and what God's called us to do. We do it in different spaces. We deliver in different ways because our journeys have been different, but actually it was the same message all the way through. And actually, right, one of the things that I remember, because you are actually probably more experienced in this space than I am, in terms of all the leadership that you've done and the work that you've done. For me, it was a bit of a challenge to, if there was anything that I could reveal to you that you didn't already know, or that was different, like those light bulb moments. And obviously the questionnaire that's based on Dr. Caroline Leaf's work was part of that. But the other one, I remember you saying, it was when we did the I ams, or was looking at your actual personal identity. And I remember you going, oh my goodness, well, you tell me, can you remember what you got out of it? I just so remember, because for me, it was like, oh, yay, got a gold star. Can you remember what that was?
Yeah, kind of. I've always found like the topic of identity really like nebulous in a way, and which is so funny, because it's a space I spend a lot of time in, helping people with their identity, but how the process works, and how the thought structures work, how we place ourselves in that identity. I've been curious about that for a very long time. And some of the I am statements about, that part of identity is who I've decided I am, what I'm agreeing with. Yeah. And I haven't met anybody yet when I do this kind of work, and I just frame it a little bit differently, which is why I think I got so much out of the way that you did it, Sally, was that we are who we think we are. And so when we bring that out into the light and we go, wow, I actually think that I'm this, because I just watched what I did. But that's not what I thought I was. Or, when you get those those blockages, those differences. I'm actually searching for a word here. Maybe it'll pop into my head in a minute. But you get those points of friction where I thought I was this, but I'm actually acting like this. So, well, then which one is true, or which one's right, or which one's wrong? And actually doing the journey of working through that is really helpful. And I remember, yeah, we bumped into a couple of things where I thought I was something that I wasn't. And it's yeah, probably the word is hypocrisy. You know, it's really getting caught in that hypocrisy. You know, I'm thinking I'm this, but I'm doing that. And letting the hypocrisy actually do the work of bringing us into a place where we're like, well, who would I like to be? And what would I look like if I was to do the things that somebody who's like that would do? So that our identity is actually the place that we're operating out of, and it's coming out of our heart. Yeah.
I love that. And the word I'm getting for you is alignment, because what we did was we took out the things that were out. You were like, hold on a minute. This is how I think about, but this is what I do. That's not an alignment. And it was like, whoa. And then, and again, I think it was just, as you say, it was just a revelation. So I know that you and I coach, and one of the things that I think has been really interesting, I have two coaches who keep me on track, because I think as coaches, we still need coaches. And maybe that might also have been part of the journey at that point in time, and whether we continue, who knows? But it's all around, you know, we need that. And again, I think who we think we are and who others see of us, or it's that different perspective.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes people think life coaching or coaching because there's something wrong with you. And there's nothing wrong with anyone you or I coach with. They're all, you and I have been blessed to work with the best. Like, we get to work with some incredibly talented people, but often it's because they don't know, they haven't been shown, they can't see, because we can't see it in ourselves. We need others to shine that light sometimes. So I think you've kind of shared what the gold was that you got out of it. And I suppose my question to you, for people who are seeing you or I for the first time in January, as we're putting these out on YouTube and letting people see what the journey is for life coaching or doing some consultancy and insight into growing people, because that's what both you and I do. We grow people. I don't grow plants, I grow people. You build people, you don't build houses, you build people. It's like, that's what we do. You know, that's our lane, or a zone of genius. So if you you and I are going to be seeing each other in February. I'm so super cool, so excited that we're doing the What Next. And I love the fact that we're showing people how ordinary people just like us can, when we're in our zone of genius and our field of favor, when we know our value, identity, and purpose, can just literally skyrocket and become extraordinary. And I'm super excited that we get to reveal that. What is it, if you were talking to anyone who is listening to this and thinking, how can I get better? What were your thoughts? Why did you come, I suppose? Because it'd be another person that might be in your sphere of zone of genius, or they might be thinking, well, what's the point of going to a coach? What did you get out of working with me or working with a coach? What would you say to somebody who's like, well, what's the point? And sitting on the fence.
For me, it really comes down to the key question, and this is something that a lot of people don't ask themselves, is, would you actually like to flourish? Like, how good would you like your life to be? And a lot of people, it's kind of like, you know, there's these levels, but most people are happy here. And, you know, if it's below that, they're like, oh, I've got something I need to work on because this is really difficult. But as soon as they get up to this point, they're like, okay, I'm okay now. I don't need any more help. But very few of us spend time in this area here. And so I think I see a lot of people, and this is our Western mindset, I think. We're okay, and when we get sick, we go to the doctor. I'm okay, and when life or business or like my inner life is in turmoil, I go and see a coach or a counselor. But it's like there's so much more. But like, what would life be like if I spent some time with a coach and actually learnt the stuff that could help me thrive, like to be amazing, to see me start to come into my potential, to like to smash fear, to not have any worry, to not be walking with anxiety, to be seeing opportunities and going for it, to be pioneering stuff. Like these are some of the challenges that I've had to face. And so probably indirectly, like your encouragement, because, you know, like when you've got a coach, you've got somebody who's in your corner, you know, and you hop down out after boxing for a little bit and you sit in the corner and you chat with the coach and you go, okay, so how am I going? And the coach gives you a squirt of water and gives you some tips and says, okay, just watch out for that left hook and go out there and try again. And all of us need a bit of feedback. All of us need a little bit of help. The question is, how vulnerable are you willing to be? And how open are you willing to be? And how much would you like to grow? And my question is, like, out of 10 right now, where would you grade your life? Out of 10 right now. And then let's say, let me guess, like you've put somewhere between 2 to 7, because that's sort of where most people grade it. What would it like to be an 8? What do you need to do to get to an 8? If you're a 2, what would it take to get to a 4, to a 5, to a 6? Who could help you? Once you get to an 8, what would it be like to get to a 9? Like, what would that be like? Like, what do you need? And that's where coaches really come in, because what coaches can do is they can keep you accountable on what you said you wanted to change. They can be there to ask the right question at the right time and give you encouragement to do the things and help you be who you want to be. So they actually help you. You know, we were speaking about identity before, and the who am I? Like, a coach helps you through that journey, because you're walking through the mud of trying to change yourself. Like, it's thick and it's hard, and you know, there's this point where, like, you could do with somebody's help. And all you got to do is just reach out and ask. So for me, that's the absolute benefit. And for me, in some of the things I was going through, Sally, that's where you were my absolute benefit. For some of the people that I get to work with, you know, like they tell me, it's like, if I didn't get to work with you, I would still be at a 2 or I'd still be at a 4. But I didn't even know that I needed to change. And I didn't know that it was possible. And I didn't know it could be this good. And I didn't know it was that easy. Like, all I had to do was just reach out and ask for some help. Yeah.
I love that. And it's just so funny. Every time Chris and I have hung out, there's been a vision, or there's been something, or there's been something to share. And I just saw the mud, because it's hard yucca when we do things alone.
Yeah,
and then I just basically saw a plank of wood being put across the mud.
That's good.
You literally take people, and you put your hand out to say, help me please, and they say, come on then, just walk along this plank. And it's all like, it's so easy with friends or with people. I think the heart, and I love the way that you've shared that and you've been vulnerable, in terms of the fact that I think the biggest thing that you and I both probably have noticed, and in ourselves, the biggest step for me was to actually say, would you like to come and do the February event with me? You know, step out with courage and say, would you like to come on this journey with me? And I feel like that is, for many people, to ask for help is not a Western way of being. It is a Western way of being. It's not, we don't do that very often. And yet February's conference and us getting together is going to absolutely nail and show people how brilliant they can be when we walk together, when we take each other's wisdom and insight and we work together.
Yeah.
So, Chris,
I got one more analogy, if I can check it in. You're talking about the plank on the mud, and actually my head went straight back to the lighthouse, and I'm like, where does the light come out of the lighthouse? It comes out at the top. And so, you know, I know there's a lighthouse right here. Like, if you're still building or repairing the bottom, like, there's no light left. If your life is at this level here, like, you've got a couple of windows to look out, but you're still building or repairing stuff. You know, the light doesn't come out until you've actually been constructed all the way to the top. Like, that's when the light comes out. And so, like, the bigger picture view is, like, we want lots of people to be lights in the world. You know, that the world needs you to shine your light, but you have to be built first. You have to be repaired first, and that's a process. And then your light can really shine. And, you know, if you want a really satisfying life, that's just how it works. Yeah.
What an amazing way to wrap up our time together today. And I just love that. And you're right, there is some repairing. But what I love, and that's something else I'm just going to add to that, I think the other thing or the other fear that people have is you've got to show your dirty undies. It's like if you're going to get repaired, you've got to kind of open those wounds. And the joy of how you and Gretchen and I and Kev, of how we all work, is actually we do shine light on those things, but we don't open them up. We don't then open them up and wallow in them. And so just as that lighthouse that you've shown, that we're going to do that repair work, but you won't notice on the outside that all that beautiful repair work is getting done. So no one has to have shame or guilt or all that stuff is completely cleared without anyone knowing. And I just, you know, as you were just showing that lighthouse diagram, and you're absolutely right, as we repair the hurts, the attitudes, the words spoken over us, whatever it might be that has happened to us in life. And as we repair that from the inside out, there is a light that shines from us that absolutely no one can take down. And it's super cool. So
Chris, and we need your light. Like everybody needs to shine their light. The rest of the world is waiting for you to show your light.
So come and join us. That's my invite. Like, I haven't done an invite in any of these, but I just feel like that's my invite to say, come and join us in February at, I think it's www.inspiringperspectives.com/what next. We have a What Next event, of which Chris and I and Gretchen and 8 other people are coming to present, to share with you how they have restructured to shine their light and to open the doors and take the curtain, reel back the curtain on all their tips and trades so that you don't have to wallow in the mud anymore. We can give you the plank and you can go straight to the top and shine your light. So we look forward to seeing you there.
That's great.
Amen.
We're wrapped up. Thanks, Sally.